Day 9, October 2022. Conversation quite simple, quite clear, and your Sunday will be free. A little review, things we are doing: Rio de Janeiro, private living, independent research, independent effort, totally self-supported by my own effort, my own will, and my own desire. And everything we have because I believe in the source that is doing this, which implies my personality and myself. And when you do the strike against my personality and myself, you impact all things sourced from this. The legitimacy to charge you is totally according with the law and the Constitution. You committed not only abuses and violation of basic rights and guarantees, but equally industrial crime. The last thing we had was that the global arena, considering our security plan, observing the density at the existence field, was having a decreasement by the cross-cut between different areas, unveil different types and purpose, and obvious that according with the Federal Bureau of Investigation is always oriented in the very first moment to achieve any kind of advantage. The advantage at the institutional system in America, or in general in the Western society, goes by the electoral system. And since you had this orientation, there is a real possibility as having fraud scams at the electoral process, including the electoral crimes, not only in America, but considering the interaction of criminals going by the interconnection, which implies a piece inside the scam or the institution or regular area connected with others from inside, setting establishment misguided and misoriented by purpose. We could observe that this indeed is the validation of this board presented at least 1 year ago by the relation corporative government and state with failures inside the interaction going at this area, the interconnection in the middle, null premises at the institutional behavior, impacting the premises as regulatory, regulation, or stability, impacting the tranquility in the global arena in the same way. We could observe that the evasive behavior is this null premise after God discovered doing things to scapegoat things against anyone else. Goes at the tax department, considering the relation debt and credit, the supply and demand, the investment saving curve, and the liquidity money curve, conjunctural behavior observed by risk and proved in some janky areas that commit crimes had no courage to assume. At the criminal record as subsidiary record, if they receive money to change this, they change all records at those areas. If you have a mandatory need as habeas data and a constitutional right as petition of right, which impose this habeas data to the public department, protect the data, and they do not have this, they do not respect the constitutional guarantees in a diffuse areas in a ways, especially impacting the international system by the element and value of this data. If you could observe this at the public department, then must have the complement by the complementary note observation by the Google, for instance, it's proved that they committed obstruction of crime of justice from the institution protecting criminals inside, organized and associated by corruption with interconnection offering advantage to others through nepotism. Industrial project research development theory, did the financial research to America first one, cross-cut 1920 up to 2022, America fails on political spectral field considering two political parties, 1988 up to 2022, public body get Brazil, all transnational organized crime that had in Brazil is on it. The cross-cut will allow you to get Europe, and from Europe you get Asia. And nowadays you have A transference as expectation oriented, which indeed is the holographic business model, and viewed as the support of this systematic accusation against transnational organized crime and other elements that threaten we all. The division of values here, the intellectual asset sourced from my privacy, based on the walkthrough through my thoughts, and intellectual mind is under violation, interest and hurt, and creditors committee, with legitimacy to charge you and have the declaration of guiltiness against you all, considering the industrial crime and the harassment. The cross-cut between different areas, considering the macroeconomy, we could observe that model, which is the model as a free market or actual oil model, which was used, for instance, in areas that are having struggle, like the closed environment related with another area with interest at this area which is not closed, such in this big bubble in the middle as the zone as free zone. In the same way, we observe the same model, two different political parties at my unique solution association. The promiscuous zone in the middle was that zone that is a consequence of the struggle. By obvious, we can get that this struggle will affect the political party and the spectral field of my unique solution association like this. We could observe that by gains and advantage, people will act back and operate from corruption. And sometimes the public corruption is always the most dangerous and is treason against the state power. If you go at the judicial system, for sure, the judge do not have the good behavior that allow the payment or the compensation, the way they receive their salaries. And it's proven the treason against the state power. The clandestine taxation, which is the physiological, financial router at the public department and the public system, which indeed is the public investment system that is that has as income the payment made by the citizens as payers, taxpayers, and they had the expectation, which is they pay back the citizenship. If your area do not respect your basic rights or guarantees, this public investment system is misguided, and we could prove that is used for criminal purpose, the abusive taxation, plus the begging of investment all around the world is always to support criminal needs like drug dependence, prostitution, hedonism, and others. This corrupt the youth, which will be the next generation walking through this large door as nepotism to feed the criminal system as pandemic mobilization of crime, creating embarrassing situation and barriers for who is for real. It can be a system, it can be a structure, a department, a citizen, a company, or the charge with legitimacy to be made and the guiltiness with total conformance with the law and the constitution to be declared by the judicial power having the case. The overpricing scam and the distortion indeed have properties and attributes because it's a system. It's a systematic mobilization of structure come from cartel until the trust. If you have this as economic motivation and mobilization, and you have the fake records on economy, which implies your conjuncture, of course that will go in the criminal area in the same way, despite not with the same frequency or with the same range, but exist. Was declared by the Secretary of Justice in the United States during the last election as something discrete, but that exists. The distribution of things, as we could observe, will go like this. We will observe that the different areas, and America, for instance, and Brazil, or can be the criminal area and the regular area, will have failures inside the interconnection of failures with division of values, having the interconnection by the corruption on regular area with criminal purpose, setting The entire model qualified by binary value, it implies codified and unveiled, which is the regular area with tolerance with corruption until have criminal purpose as mobilization of resources, and we will consider that this is okay, having a new law, a new decision at the judicial system, or a disruptive event. The dissociative disorder is a problem and that affects variables, and of course that the variables have leadership or has leader or domain, has the domain of circumstance ruled by the premise, as we could observe at this board, which is the dissociative behavior, the dissociative disorder, and it's a disorder, it's a division, a mental division. And we could have the accusation, 3 moments, corruption, criminal association, and the transnational organized crime under pressure, and having chairs on institutional area with institutional empowerment misguided and misused, committing white-collar crime, tax evasion, not only by do not pay the payment, but receive money or doing transfers for public resources that are abusive, and financial evasion, piracy of products and immaterial, assault of your property by the clandestine remote access of your mobile and operational system and machines. We could observe that this is quite clear, quite simple. We had the second accusation, which is the functional corruption, and the last one, the international corruption. We will move like this, considering the database sigma with the approach N, observing that the dissociative disorder with heads that has domain and followers, which can be at the show business, can be at the electoral field or the institution, whatever, or the global company, goes like this. You will have the judicial power in United States, you will have the government, and you will have the Congress. This is the distribution of regular power. But those regular powers, indeed, we will observe that they are failored inside with small purpose, considering the main driver as the American Constitution. And if since this goes since always, at least 1920, the distortion will pass through and have associated by tolerance since to 1920 the United States of America. And the United States of America will be impacted on present time by the dissociative disorder, considering heads and the dissociative disorder considering groups or structure or followers. And then we will check that despite you consider that the following groups are more dangerous, indeed they are not, because they have a lower level as density and a lower capacity to do the mobilization. In other words, the real threat is here. But as you can observe, the heads under dissociative disorder by a pressure suffered implies that the pressure made in some way is related with this event that is in the very beginning and the very early days, and you can interrupt this kind of having a privilege or a plea bargain to those heads. And the groups here kind of will support to understand the behavior on social media and a lot of things, and the preference to be following some kind of things that leads to disgrace. Quite simple to get. This is the database Sigma American Grid. We are having this as the judicial review. Inside the grid which is the United States of America, 1920 up to 2022, under violation, even as a free effort, allowing the compensation. It's not a payment, it's a free right, and it's so by law. 37 trillion plus 5 billion, having the individualization with heads that did the cooperation obtain the plea bargain, heads that are trying to do the plea bargain and obtain the privilege must have new information. Without something new, full punishment, considering the capital punishment in the United States. Have a great week and freedom of thoughts to find your solution. Hire an attorney in U.S. judicial system. If you can pay, this anti-crime budget will help to pay your misery state of mind.